You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey Vet Rehabbers, now one of the things I love about you guys is that you are problem solvers, and often we have patients we're treating and we have thought about a product which could really help them, and we wonder, if only there was a product, such a thing on the market available to us. And this is where our entrepreneurial ideas spring from. Today I'm chatting with Dr. Julie Buzby. She's going to share with us her story and how she founded and started ToeGrips. Now this is a genius product. They are small little rubber rings that slip on the dog's toenails. They help to provide traction, and in the interview Julie will share with us all the different types of cases that can really benefit from this product. She has affiliate and wholesale options for vet rehabbers, and for more details you can check out the links in the description of this podcast. Now, if you have a great idea and you're thinking about pursuing it, we created a PDF download called Ideas to Reality, and you can get the link for this also in the show notes. And it goes through exact description of sort of 7 different points that you need to take in order to start from idea to eventually get your product from prototype to creating your product and then get it out into the market. Now, the Untitled team is hard at work at the moment in planning the Vet Rehab Summit. This is our online veterinary rehabilitation conference. Now, I want you guys to bookmark the date now. It's the 12th of November. Untitled paid members, you get free VIP access to this event. If you're not a paid member, you'll be able to purchase day access. And if you want to find out more, you can go to vetrehabsummit.com. Now, alternatively, you can also join the largest vet rehabber community on Facebook, and these are in our vet rehabber Facebook groups. We share all opportunities and things that are happening in these groups. We have 4 groups. They are the small animal vet rehabbers, hydro vet rehabbers, equine vet rehabbers, and the business vet rehabbers. Now, this is where the vet rehabbers all hang out online. They share research, tips, and advice, and it's a great supportive community, and we'd love to have you online there with us. Now, I really love this conversation with Julie. Her energy is contagious. Let's see what she has to say. Hey, Julie, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Julie, for our listeners, won't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I have been a vet for 25 years, and very early in my career, I realized that I didn't have enough tools in my toolbox to feel like I was doing a good job for my patients. And so I did training through the American Veterinary Chiropractic Association, and shortly thereafter, the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society. I was able to do both of those, which, as I'm sure all of you know, as rehabbers, it takes a big commitment financially and time-wise to travel and to do the training. And I didn't have kids and I wasn't married at the time, so it worked out. Shortly thereafter, I got married and I now have 8 kids. And so I never went on to do the rehab training, but I have so much admiration for you and your profession and love being able to kind of partner with that world. I still practice a little bit part-time doing chiropractic and acupuncture. My husband says I'm the only one he knows who comes back from work looking 100 times better than when I left, because it's truly my passion. But I also do momming and homeschooling as a full-time job, and my other full-time job, which kind of fell in my lap because I'm an accidental entrepreneur, is a company called ToeGrips, and we sell products for senior dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to chat to you about how you started ToeGrips, because, you know, I'm also somebody who loves to innovate, and I've had a few products that I've sort of made myself and got factories to try and make. But ToeGrips is like an amazing invention. So tell me, how did you come up with the idea? Like, when was the moment?
Yes. So I love to brag about how brilliant ToeGrips are because they're not my idea. So a client of mine actually came to the vet hospital where I was working. We had an open house and I had a little table set up for the holistic medicine. And I had worked on his dog. I had done acupuncture on his Australian Shepherd named Morgan, who was 15 years old at the time. And he came up to me and he had put these little things on her toenails. And he had actually done it to keep her quiet from ticking on the floors, her nails like ticking on the floors at night. Like many senior dogs, she had probably some dementia, some sundowner syndrome happening in the evenings. And so his wife, who was a vet tech at the hospital, said one night, like, can you just get her to stop being so loud? And he was is a brilliant inventor. His family had done many inventions and he's an artist and patenting things in the art world. And so he basically came up with this kind of an idea, which was an early prototype. So when he showed them to me, all he said was, He walked up with his dog and her little bandana and said, "Look what I did for Morgan." And like my hair stood on end, like all my, goosebumps covered my whole body. My life passed before my eyes. Like that was it. That's all he had to say. And I'm like, oh my heavens, I've been looking for this my whole career, but I didn't know what it looked like. Traction through the toenails. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because about 3 minutes later, the owner of the vet practice, who was a brilliant veterinarian, wonderful person, just really like kind of just one of those brilliant doctors that intuitively does everything right, came up to us in the conversation. And the man said the same thing. "Look what I did for Morgan." And he looked down and he looked at the nails and he smiled. And then he looked up and said, "So have you been on your boat lately?" Like, it was just so interesting to me with just the difference. So that was my moment. And I was so excited. I just wanted them for my patients. So I just started texting him. And I mean, I was like in the shower thinking about them and thinking, how can we help more dogs? Like, we got to get these out there. And so after about 2 weeks of that, I think I drove the poor guy crazy. I think he was like, "Okay, well, I am not nearly as excited about this as you are." And he essentially said, "Listen, I did this for my dog. It's interesting how they've benefited her, but I'm not going to do anything with this idea." He, like I said, was working on other major projects and really a game changer in his industry. And he said, "If you feel like you can help dogs with these, Julie, I want you to go for it." And I just felt so privileged and so overwhelmed with that opportunity. I remember just being in a grocery store parking lot, just having this conversation with him and saying, like, "If I can make these work, if I can make it big, I'll buy you a private island." And he so wisely said, like, "The bigger you get, the more problems and more expenses you're going to have. Like, you don't worry about it. You just go help the animals." And so he legally assigned the patent, or there wasn't a patent, sorry, the idea to us. And then I went on and worked for a couple of years to patent it and do the R&D and prototyping and getting it out as a product.
Wow. So when he'd come to you and he'd said like he did this for the noise, did he then tell you that, and I've actually noticed that my dog is not slipping so much? I mean, did he say more to you that made you think like, wow, this would really work? Or did you have the foresight to think, wow, like this might work for the noise, but it's also going to work for dogs slipping on floors?
So that just came to me. I love dog toenails. It's my passion. And I just knew, like, oh my heavens, dogs use their nails like soccer cleats, and they actually flex the paws and engage the nails, and they don't slip in the grass and on the carpet because they have that mechanism. And so just by giving them this little bit of grip to that natural mechanism, I'm like, oh my heavens, this is
going to work.
Brilliant. So, but he did, so that was already in my head. But then as the conversation progressed for a couple of minutes, he did say, "It's really cool is that she's now," because he had been using them, I think, for maybe a month or a little more when I first saw them. And he's like, "She's now like jumping up on the couch again. And she had stopped doing that. And she's like going on longer walks with us." And so there's this whole progression of, first of all, confidence, which it's interesting to me, maybe more so now, veterinary medicine is accepting that as a valid thought. But I remember very early on when ToeGrips first came out, I was talking to a colleague, another brilliant vet whom I really love and respect. And I mean, she's wonderful. And I said, "These are really improving my patient's confidence." And she said, "Confidence? I don't care about my patient's confidence." And I was like crushed, because I think that's so integral to quality of life. And maybe it's, the wrong word. It's not like, they're in a business suit on Wall Street type job interview confidence, but they felt safer. They were trusting their body to be able to get up off of slippery floors or make the jump off of a slippery floor back onto the couch. And then as that happened over time and they started using themselves more and more correctly, I do think that they built up a little bit better muscle tone. And then the other feedback that we got from the rehab world, I didn't come up with this. This was a funny story. A veterinarian contacted me out of Massachusetts, and she said, "So we've heard about these and we want to try these on the owner's dog, but he has deformed toenails and he's neurologic. And I'm thinking, oh, good gravy. Like, could we pick a better first dog to try these on? Like, no pressure. So they called back like 3 weeks later and said, so the cool thing is they help this dog on any surface, not just slippery surfaces. He's better on any surface. And we think it's because of the proprioceptive stimulus. And I thought, oh my heavens, that's it. That's not instant. The traction and the confidence, that's instant. I mean, minutes, usually seconds, minutes. We do have some dogs that seem to be a little slower learners and maybe they take a day, but it's instant. But the proprioceptive stimulus effect can be like, weeks. And that's also super cool because there's nothing else that we put on dogs that's so distal that is in some way, whether it be like micro pressure or just micro sensation somehow affecting pathways to the brain. And I haven't done a study on that, but I do believe in 10 years of watching this and using this on my own patients and getting feedback that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually used the product. So, I mean, I've for my old dog, Charlie. And what I was so surprised about is that he actually hated his feet being touched. So he's one of those kind of dogs where like you could hardly clip his nails and you just touch his feet and he was like at you, And I remember the size that I had with the little red ones and I put them on and we've got wooden floors and wooden staircase. And he used to struggle so much going up and down the staircase. And I've actually got a video of him before and after. And I'm sorry I never ever sent it to you.
I need this.
I know. I'll look for it. But I've got like, so we took a video of him going up the stairs and down the stairs. I said to my husband, let's like see the difference and then we can really look, and then we put them on and it was a massive difference, like instantly up and down the stairs, and it's really, really like for him, he did in the beginning, like try to bite them and chew at them a little bit. But then after a while, he was just disinterested in them. And, that was it. They were on and he lost one or two over like the 2 weeks. But like, and then the ones that stayed on, even if he loses one or two of them, the traction's still there. It doesn't change, So yeah, and it made such a difference to him. So yeah, thank you for making that product because you changed Charlie's life, and it really, really helped him. So Judy, obviously, making products, they're challenges, and not the guy who actually invented them said, you're going to have a whole lot of problems. So share with us the problems that have arisen and how you've overcome them.
Well, the first was financial, right? I mean, this is not cheap. After I saw ToeGrips, again, they weren't called ToeGrips, they were just a prototype idea. But after I saw them, I said to the guy, would you please come to my house and put these on some of my patients? Like I'll get patients together or I'll meet you wherever, but let's get together and start. I want to try these on more dogs. And so he came the following weekend and I had a couple patients. And the one that really blew me away was this dog that I'd been working on for a long time. The first time I met this lady, she came in, she cried because I was her last hope. She had gone through traditional vet med. The dog was on tons of med supplements. She had a TPLO surgery that the dog just wasn't doing well. Years previously, it had a TPLO. And so she was a senior like shepherd mix. And it didn't occur to me that the dog was not comfortable bearing weight on that leg because maybe the dog slipped or in some way when she placed it, she didn't feel secure. And of course, any slippage or torque is going to transfer up that long axis up into the knee. And none of this ever occurred to me. I mean, I was doing chiropractic, acupuncture, trimming her nails regularly. She was doing some Cavaletti work at home. Like we were really, she was on everything we could do from a Western med standpoint. I think 3 different supplements. And so she brought the dog. I forgot to even tell her why she was bringing the dog. I just said, I'm so excited. You've got to be at my house this weekend. And so she came, she's like, I don't even know what I'm here for. But the dog's name was Hope, which I think is so ironic. And she's like, but Hope's having a really bad day. So she parked on the curb. She lifted the dog out of her SUV. And Hope was such a sweet girl. She, wanted to come to me with her tail wagging and her little bright eyes. But she hobbled practically 3-legged lame down the driveway, greeted everybody, flopped over in my island and the pine straw. And so we put these things on her and she got up and she walked back up the driveway to her vehicle, like 85% better. It was insanity. And I'm like, what in the world just happened there? I mean, my mouth was just gaping. But I bring this up because we started just talking and the owner was ecstatic. And she was really like the dog that inspired me to take it all the way, because I had worked on that dog for, I think, a couple years, and I had done everything in my power. Like I had nothing more to give her. And we did something so simple and changed her life. And she was obviously so much more comfortable. And incidentally, I love ToeGrips for cruciate dogs, pre-op, post-op, non-op. But in the driveway talking, so now we've got this sweet lady who is a great client. My husband and I and the inventor and his wife were there. And I just remember saying to my husband, like, I'm sure we can get this off the ground for $2,000. Like, how hard can this be?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, after we had drained all of our IRAs, all of our savings, like practically leveraged our house, here we are today. But so the finances, like that's a real challenge. And then there's just the mistakes, right? I mean, it's a pathway that no one, at least that I knew, had previously forged. So, I mean, I was just doing crazy stuff. I mean, I was just doing internet research, calling people all over the country. Like, I mean, I could tell you stories, but in the end, 10 years later, I look back and I'm so thankful for all of that because it worked out. But the boss that had said originally to the inventor, so have you been on the boat lately? Like once he figured out, probably 6 months into this or a few months into this, because everybody at the vet hospital, all the receptionists and techs that had senior dogs were all beta testers. And so he saw this was a thing. We were making a product out of this. And he was so kind. He said, Julie, you're the perfect person to bring this to market because you're a bulldog. And I took, and then he's like, oh, wait, like, are you offended by that? He was backpedaling, like, no, that is such a high compliment because, and I'm sure you have it in you too, Meg, like these things don't happen without, like, you have to have the tenacity to just say failure is not an option. And I believe in this so much. Like, I guess that's my first piece of advice. If it's not a 10 out of 10 idea for you, if it's a like 8.5 out of 10, it's may not be enough to ballast you or, hold you up through the bad days and bad times, because I just got beaten down by so many challenges and brick walls. And like, it was just my complete faith that this was really going to be life-changing for senior dogs and had to get out there for them. And definitely I was blessed. God was with us in the journey.
Yeah, I mean, and for you, it must be so amazing because you know, as a vet, you're able to help a certain number of animals with your hands, right? And then to create a product that is helping dogs now all over the world. I mean, that must be so satisfying.
It's not something I ever thought about in vet school or when I was practicing, but you nailed it. Like, to be able to amplify your impact is the most rewarding thing. To think, wow, there's like, and to get those testimonials from people who say this changed my dog's life and therefore they change my life, right? Because when their dogs are failing, they feel like they're failing. And so it's just crazy to me. And I'm so blessed to be a part of, like, along for the ride of seeing the impact and seeing that impact just slowly grow over the years.
So how do you manage it all? So you're still practicing now, doing some acupuncture and chiro. How do you manage running this business on the side, homeschooling? I don't know how you do it, and running the practice. Yeah. I mean, how do you juggle all of that?
Yeah, I'd love to say that I'm super organized and I get up at 5 a.m. every day and, blah, blah, but I'm not. I'm not. I do keep a gigantic 4x6 whiteboard in my bedroom. I run everything off the whiteboard. My husband's like, can we go digital? This is like so 1980 that you're running your life off of a whiteboard. I'm like, no, this is how it's going to be. And also my paper calendar. Thank you very much. I don't sleep enough. I mean, just to be honest, I don't get enough sleep. And thankfully, I think I'm wired that works out. But you have to have a village. And I'm sure you know that too. I have somebody who helps me in my house, who's like an adopted daughter to me, who helps with the kids and helps with homeschooling and takes them swimming in the summer. And then my husband is now full-time in this business as well, doing the financial aspect, payroll, accounts receivable, et cetera. So it's a team effort, 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've got family helping, and any of the kids looking like they're going to be coming into the business too.
It's so funny that you would say that. My oldest daughter absolutely wants this company, and she's been with us from the very beginning. And when I launched at VMX in 2013, it was called NAVC then. She just came along because I try to incorporate them in whatever I'm doing. Like, I'm bringing the kids, even if they're not at the conference hall with me, they're going to be at the hotel or the Airbnb. Like, we travel as a family. And there, I was doing CE there. So I wasn't even at our ToeGrips booth all the time. I was getting my hours in. And apparently the booth was really busy. And these two guys in suits were kind of standing on the fringe. And Abigail, I didn't instruct her to say or do anything. She was 10 years old. She was just there hanging out with mom. But she went up to them on her own and said, "Hello, sir, may I tell you about ToeGrips?" And she gave them this pitch. And I mean, this was so crazy because one of our big goals in going to this show was to get a distributor in the US. And at our open house, a year later at our open house, so the open house is how I saw ToeGrips. A year later at our open house, one of our distributors was there running the grill. We had this gigantic grill for clients, and he was running the grill. And he's like, "Oh, I've seen these around town. You should come to NABC. That's where all big products launch. And you should try to get us as a distributor." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that would be great. Like, that sounds easy." Well, of course, there's the finances of getting there, et cetera, which is a whole crazy story. But my daughter pitched this guy that happened to be the vice president of marketing. And so a few months later, he calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm so sorry. The first quarter's been really busy for us, but your daughter gave me the best pitch that I have ever heard on a trade show floor. And I've been doing this for years. And we want to do business with you." And I had to mute the phone because I burst into tears. I'm like, "Oh," so I'm like, "Okay, keep it together, Julie." So I'm like muted, and he's like, "Hello." And I come back, I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. We've been looking for a US distributor." And so their opening order with us was like $30,000, and we needed that cash flow so badly. So
well done, Abigail.
this girl, then she wanted to negotiate for a commission when they ordered.
I'm sure.
So
entrepreneur of a mom already. She's already trying to make her comms. I like it.
So she's in college and planning to go to law school. And I think that would be valuable to have a law degree as an entrepreneur. So that is her. I'm like, "Abigail, don't you want to make your own way?" And she's like, "I would love nothing more than to do this with you." So that's the eventual plan, is keep it in the family.
Oh, that's awesome. So how old is she now?
She is 20.
Yeah. Wow. Well done. That's amazing. I love that story. So, I mean, and then obviously from then on, you've got distributors all around the world now, right?
Yeah. So we never sought distributors, probably just because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not advocating this as a strategy, but they came to us. So we ended up that same year with WDDC from Canada, Orthopets UK, which they've been fabulous, and then have just continued to grow. We have a rehab vet in Hong Kong that distributes for us, and a company in Japan. So it's been neat just to see that grow and to develop partnerships with these like-minded people around the world.
I mean, so can I put it out there? If there's anybody who's listening to this podcast who's looking to distribute ToeGrips, they can reach out to you?
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. We're always looking at opening new markets and getting ToeGrips to more people worldwide. I would say that it's not really an appropriate mission for a practitioner who is in practice full time and doesn't already have some sort of an infrastructure. But if you're already distributing rehab products or have an infrastructure and a team for shipping and customer service, et cetera, we would love to talk to you. And you can email Jamie, JAIMIE at ToeGrips.com. And she manages our distributor relationships. And we start with an interview, and we have a webinar, we do training and support you 100%.
Awesome. And there's a website as well, drbuzbyswholesale.com. Can they go there to find out more information?
Absolutely. So any vet or rehab practitioner can buy ToeGrips wholesale worldwide there. So we really have several ways that you can get ToeGrips for your clients. One, they can just buy them retail on our website, ToeGrips.com, and we ship worldwide. Two, you can buy them and stock them, which, because they're a consumable product that clients continue to use, I think it's a great business model. They're small, they don't take up much space and light. And that's drbuzbyswholesale.com. You can also go to ToeGripswholesale.com. They go the same place. And then we have distributor. And we have a new program. Is it okay if I talk about the affiliate program?
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a new program for practitioners who say, like, I don't necessarily want to carry your product for whatever reason, or stock it, but I would like to send you referrals when clients, they'll buy directly from you, but I would like to get credit for that relationship. And these relationships have been going on a long time. I mean, we have known for a long time that the majority of our sales come from vet and rehab practitioner recommendations, even human chiropractors that are certified and working on animals. And so we are now just making it official for those people to be rewarded through an affiliate program. And then we have a veterinarian who runs that program for us. And that is Jessica, Dr. Jessica Harris, Jessica, Jessica at ToeGrips.com. And you can reach out to her for details about the affiliate program. Super simple. It's like a 3-minute sign up process. There's lots of information to help you be successful selling ToeGrips, but there's no commitment, no fees. It's just a way to help you if you're already recommending us, or if you want to be, to receive some income from that.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. I'm always trying to encourage vet rehabbers to diversify the income, guys. So this is a great way to do that. So Julie, if we could just run through, while we're chatting about the affiliate structure, like what kind of patients would vet rehabbers recommend to send to get ToeGrips? So like, what are the type of patients that could really benefit from ToeGrips?
That's a great question. So the classic dog is just that senior dog who's probably has arthritic hips and arthritis elsewhere and just struggles to get up. So the gray muzzled old lab or gray muzzled pug, that's kind of the classic. But over the years, we discovered that ToeGrips help a lot of other different types of dogs. So I mentioned neurologic dogs. If they are really severely dragging, ToeGrips are not the right product for them, because I want them to be able to drag through and replace that paw without added friction on the top of the nail. But if they're mild to moderately dragging, ToeGrips do provide proprioceptive stimulus and can be really helpful. They can be sparing from the nail getting worn down. So again, not the right product for dogs whose nails are little bloody nubs at that point. But early on, when they're neurologic and dragging, you have to glue the ToeGrips on, which is not the traditional method of application. ToeGrips are designed just to create a friction fit and stay on the nails by creating like a little vacuum. But for all neurologic dogs, I do use just super glue. It works better than tissue glue, and I glue them on. And so I love them for neuro dogs. I use them for all my 3-legged dogs. It just seems to help give them a more stability. And along the same lines, blind dogs, it seems to help give them more stability, even if they don't have a slipping issue, just more confidence. Any sort of dogs with arthritis or any kind of a condition that creates instability or weakness, hind end weakness, I'm using ToeGrips. And I love, like I said earlier, cruciate dogs. The cruciate dogs are maybe the only case where I'm just putting ToeGrips on the hind paws and not all 4. In most other cases, I'm doing ToeGrips on all 4 paws, even if it doesn't look like the senior dog slipping on the front paws. I still do them on all 4 paws because it does provide more stability. But for a dog who's maybe younger and has a cruciate issue, I absolutely do symmetry right to left, but I don't necessarily do the front legs. They're not great for young dogs who are very active because they'll just tend to come off. But if it's an appropriate patient and they've been sized correctly and you're sure of that, and ToeGrips don't stay on for whatever reason, you can fall back to the glue method. Sometimes dogs will pop them off, like getting in and out of a bed or a high, if they have like slippery floors, but also high pile carpet, that'll tend to pop them off, or even getting in and out of a upholstery in the vehicle will kind of tend to pop them off if they're rubbing. So the glue is kind of the go-to method for dogs that ToeGrips work really well for. They're sized correctly, and you just need to keep them on more reliably.
Yeah, so I actually glued mine on Charlie, but mainly because I didn't want to keep having to put them back on. So like if we found one and he got it off, because he was like snapping at me trying to all the time because of, he's so feet aversive. And it was fun, I must say. I used the super glue and it really helped to keep him on. So yeah. Do you recommend like using them for any post-operative case, like total hip replacement, any of those kind of cases where that if that dog slips, it's going to be a deal breaker, there's going to be a problem with the implants, TPLOs, any of those kind of, post-operative cases, even fractures. I mean, would you recommend using ToeGrips?
That's a great question. So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking these poor people have spent thousands of dollars on some sort of a repair. ToeGrips are a bargain as just a little insurance policy. So absolutely we do. We have surgeons who use them in their practice for this purpose. Thank you for bringing it up. And there was a study that was underway. It was presented, it wasn't finished, but it was presented at VMX a couple years ago for post-op TPLOs. And the student, or she was a veterinarian, but the veterinarian intern at the time, or I think maybe even resident, was going to continue working on it. And so we don't have the final results on that officially, but just from a common sense standpoint, number one, just safety, keeping them a little bit safer in their environment. And number two, I think what we observed with Hope, so many times in recovery from an injury, surgical or non-surgical, we see compensatory injuries, right? So the ToeGrips can help them feel more secure using that bad leg and be sparing, I think, to the other limbs as well.
So just some questions which I think that like pet owners might ask. So like you got a dog like Charlie who was like chewing at them. Have you ever had a dog eat one, and what happened?
Yeah, so that's our biggest question. People assume that dogs are going to chew them right off. I mean, my most recent VMX that we exhibited at, so that's predominantly veterinarians and veterinary lay people who are there. I like 3 out of 4 people came up and said, who didn't know the product and said, won't dogs chew these right off? So ToeGrips are not a perfect product. There's no such thing that's perfect. And I'm happy to admit that. And when we talked about sometimes needing glue to hold them on, but chewing them off is not actually on my list of things that I worry about. I mean, it's rare. So, I mean, just the studies that we actually have done, some internal studies, some internal surveys, like I want to say close to 99, it's like 98 and some percent of dogs just leave them alone. And if you think about it, the distal nail tip is poorly innervated, right? So it's not like they're covering skin or soft tissue. So it's really uncommon. And we do offer a money back guarantee. So for some reason, like the dogs that, no offense to Charlie, Charlie, bless you, but the dogs that tend to chew them off are like OCD type dogs that are going to just get into trouble. Basically, that's what I've observed, that they have a personality that they like to do these kind of things. So if they do, but yes, we have had dogs consume them. And that was a huge concern of mine before we even brought them to market. We did a whole year of research and development because above all, do no harm is our veterinary mantra. Yeah. And I talked to surgeons all over the country and they all said, based on size of diameter of the toe grip for size of dog's GI tract, like you're not going to have a problem. So maybe if a Chihuahua ate a Great Dane size toe grip, maybe that would be an issue, but for their own size toe grip, it wasn't predicted to be a problem. And I can thankfully say that in 10 years, we've never had a dog ingest a toe grip and have any sort of trouble. And we have had, numerous reports of that happening. Now, I will say we have had a couple cats who have ingested bigger size toe grips and have had to have them surgically removed. One was a kitten, one was a really fine boned, young, small cat and I think both of them ate like extra large or bigger. So I do pay attention in cat households just to say, be aware, but even so, like 2 cats in 10 years and 0 dogs, I feel good about that.
Yeah. And the cat probably would have eaten something else by the sounds of it. I mean, it was looking for something to eat, right? And then another question I have, do you ever have, sometimes you have these dogs that have got like really big front paws and then like really small like back paws. Do you ever have them where they need to have 2 different sizes, like for the front and back paws?
Yeah, that's another great question. So I didn't know that. Somehow you're spot on. And I didn't know that prior to the ToeGrips R&D, like, wow, sometimes they need a different size on the front than the back. And you're right. It's always the front that's bigger than the back. It's never the other way around. So in those cases, yes, they do require 2 sizes. We have not, but it's the minority. ToeGrips are stretchy and forgiving. So usually, even if they're on the cusp, you can get away with the 1 size, but sometimes it does happen. In those cases, I tell owners, yes, you're going to buy 2 packs, but in the long run, it's the same price because they're going to last twice as long. I never got into doing multi-packs where I was like split packs because from an inventory standpoint, it would just get so much more complicated, I think, for practices to carry. But good question. And that does happen. Again, not the norm, but does happen.
Yeah. And usually if they work for a dog, you're going to go through 2 packs anyway. So like you say, they just last a little bit longer. You get one size for the front and one size for the back.
Right.
So let's chat about your practice a little bit. So, I mean, how many clients are you seeing per week, and how do you fit it in? Are you doing house visits, seeing them at your house, I believe, a little bit too? Like how many are you seeing, and how do you fit it all in with all the other things that you do?
Oh, my clients are saints. So, I mean, this is just to give you an example. This is so unprofessional, but one of them I'm about to go on holiday, go on vacation. And so she's like, can you get me in before you leave? And I'm like, absolutely. If you can come today at noon, I'm going to have 30 minutes of hair dye in my hair. And that'll be perfect. Like I can squeeze you in right there. I'm like, don't worry. I'll have like, a cap on, but yeah, let's get together. So it's definitely come as you are around here.
I thought you were going to say, you can meet me at the airport. I'll treat your dog in the car.
I have done that too. I have absolutely done crazier things. So yeah, definitely all about being creative, and clients appreciate it. Like they're thankful, and they know that I'm all about keeping it real. They're typically stepping over kids' bikes. I try to be professional and keep it clear, but I forget, the other day somebody came in and they said, do you realize there's a whole bunch of, do you realize there's dead fish in your driveway? And I said, no, I'm so sorry. I did not even know that. I apologize. Come right in here. Let's get away from that. And the kids had just gone fishing to get bait for a bigger trip that was happening later in the afternoon, but oh my heavens. Yeah. So I go to people's houses, and it's, they always are spectacular. It's clear they've cleaned right before I've come. And then they come to my house, and it's like, come as you are.
And how many are you seeing per week?
At this point, not many at all, less than 10.
Okay. But that's still quite a bit. So you're having to juggle that and fit that in between. And what are your major roles in ToeGrips at the moment? I mean, you've got team members. Like, what are your commitments that you have to do there?
Yeah. So you had asked about starting a product-based company, and it's evolved so much. In the beginning, I did everything. I mean, I was customer service. My husband and I were shipping on the kitchen table. I was production. I mean, I've got pictures of the kids like packaging up ToeGrips. And one of the reasons that, I mean, it just worked out really well. But one of the reasons ToeGrips come in 7 sizes and those are color coded is because when you've got a 5-year-old packaging up the ToeGrips, you need to know that they're in the right size by bag. And so color was the easiest way to do that. So yeah, initially you are going to wear all the hats, and it's true when you're starting a veterinary hospital or rehab practice or whatever. But now it's really been fun as we've grown and just been more successful financially to be able to add teammates. We have like a whole complement of team, and first of all, it's great because it allows me to not do roles that I like, to put much better people in roles that they're successful in. I love that I've been able to hire so many people, and they're a huge blessing to me, and ToeGrips has been a blessing to them. And that's something I really take pride in. So I'm really working now on new products. That's something that I enjoy immensely, and kind of working on strategy and vision, which I also really love. Like, where are we headed? And some of the places we're headed are a little surprising. Like, we just did a encouragement conference for vets this year, and our whole team was involved in that, physically putting it on and planning it. And, that's not something you typically think of associated with a dog traction product, putting on a veterinary conference, but it's been fun to say, okay, we've got infrastructure, we've got a team, like, let's live the dream. How are we going to do good with this and be creative about that?
Tell us a little bit about that conference, because I was sort of saw a lot of things happening, and I was so envious. I really wanted to be there, but obviously being here in South Africa and it being all the way in the States, it wasn't practical. But if you do it next year, I'm definitely going to try and be there. I really would love to.
Oh, that's awesome. We have to get you speaking one of these years. So it was called the Veterinary Encouragement Conference, and the idea behind it was we all need CE. We're all getting together for CE. But what we need more is encouragement. And that comes from, like, I'm speaking to myself there. I really struggle at times with discouragement. And as a profession, the veterinary profession, at least in the US, we have some significant mental health and wellness issues. And so I thought, okay, like, what can we do to contribute in a positive way? So it was called the Veterinary Encouragement Conference, and it was really like a retreat. I mean, it was an opportunity for the moms to get away. It was for this specific one was for veterinary moms, which is another segment of our profession that is near and dear to my heart for obvious reasons. I don't know if I said this before, but I have 8 kids. So we just got together and it so far exceeded my expectations because the energy just getting those women together was spectacular and they truly cared for each other. We tried to set it up so that they would be pampered, but they did the work of just caring for one another and, listening to each other. We had babies there. When babies would cry, the other moms would jump in and take the baby so the mom could get a break. And it just really, I think, far exceeded what I was hoping for of creating community. It's great to have online community and what a blessing that is in this day and age that we can use technology to do that. But to be able to hug each other, that was really precious.
Yeah, especially after COVID and, everyone being like only doing virtual, it's so nice to be in person. And so I found it absolutely amazing. Julie, it's been so awesome chatting to you and just learning your journey and how you've got to where you are. And, I'm always encouraging vet rehabbers to, if they've got ideas for products, that they must go for it. And, there are so many different things that we can do to help pets. And a lot of us are problem solvers, right? And, being in the veterinary rehabilitation service and helping animals like the way we do, we often come across problems that we have to solve, and maybe we've got an idea of a product. Is there any advice that you could give to those people that have maybe got an idea, they're thinking about it, and they just don't know where to it? Like, what's the next step that they need to take? What advice would you give them?
If it's an idea that's keeping you up at night and you cannot stop thinking about, don't pass that up. I mean, you're not going to be 80 years old and look back and say, I'm so glad I never did that idea that I couldn't stop thinking about. You're going to say, wow, what could have been? So even if for some reason it doesn't work out the way that you thought, you will learn from that, you will pivot, and something better will come from it. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I absolutely believe it's the truth. We're the sum total of all of our experiences. And these are really special experiences when you get to bring something to life that's, almost a part of you. And I had talked a lot about the money being an obstacle. And I also believe that when you are following your heart and you are doing what you're supposed to do, like, doors open. So I had talked about being at the open house and the rep from one of the companies saying, you need to go to VMX. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how do I do that? So I got home Monday, I called, found out that a booth was like $5,000+ thinking about how I'm going to outfit the whole booth. Like, how do you even do this? I had no clue. I had always been an attendee, never an exhibitor, and a client of mine who had insisted on helping me financially get this started. And I did not want any help because if this was a failure, I wanted to go down myself. I didn't want to be in, feel like I owed anybody anything or was in debt. And so I'm like, it wasn't a prideful thing. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to accept any help because there's too much risk. And I don't want to pull loved ones into that degree of risk. But she was so adamant. Like, she called me Julie girl. I'm in the deep South. She's like, Julie girl, I'd rather give you my money than give it to the government. And I was like, that's so sweet, but no, thank you. And I was seeing her every week, for she had senior dogs and I was seeing them every week. So one day I came home from church and there was a Verizon bag, like a little bag that from the phone store, a little nice quality bag with rope handles. And it was on my doorknob. And so, she just left it there on the doorknob, and it was $10,000 in $20 bills in cash.
Wow.
She left it. She just dropped it off because I wasn't home. So and she, not even a note, nothing. But I knew that, $10,000 came from this lady who constantly was trying to give me money. So I called her and I was like, okay, so I guess you're not taking no for an answer. And she said, I believe in you. And I said, well, thank you for that. And I want to make you proud. She said, I want to give you this money for the patent. And I said, I appreciate that. And I'm going to need money for the patent, but I have this opportunity that just came up that I can go to this show in Florida and I'll make all this money back. And so can I use it for that instead? And then she's like, I trust you, do what you need to do. So I used that money to pay for the VMX trip. We took all these people at the hospital that I mentioned that were the beta testers. They came down as volunteers. We put that thing together on a shoestring budget. I had $80 sign. I mean, you know what the trade show floor looks like. People invest millions of dollars. I had an $80 banner hanging up. I borrowed a TV, a big screen TV to play before and after video. I borrowed a trailer to get down there. I mean, we weren't destitute by any means, but like, it's just a lot of income that you need to pull these things off. And so went down there and quickly realized, oh, crud, people are not selling $10,000 worth of product. They're giving out chapstick and Post-it notes. Like, this could be a problem. And we sold $10,000 like on the nose. I think we were over by like 28 cents to recoup the money, which I needed then to turn around and spend on the patent 2 months later. But just an example of, I think God completely blessed our whole launch and has blessed this company from the beginning, but an example of nothing's impossible, right? I mean, like, don't make excuses. I mean, be wise, plan, do it all on paper, get great advisors. You want people, and Meg does a phenomenal job of that in the community, but get phenomenal advisors who are going to help you, prevent you from making some mistakes. You'll still make them, but just do it. I guess, like, let's just take this from Nike. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that story. That's such an amazing story. And, like, you have people on the way that back you, right? And they believe in you. And sometimes, like, we're the ones that we like ourselves that don't believe in ourselves. And we've got all these people that believe in us. And you got to listen to them sometimes and like stop all the self-sabotage, because we're often the ones who are like saying, no, I can't do this, when everyone else is saying, you can do this, and listen to them. And when you have people like you, like, it's best to have someone who like so believes in you. And often it is our clients. Often it's our clients that are just like, you could do this. Like, I believe in you, It's such a great story. Yeah. Thank you. And so inspirational, Julie, like everything that you've achieved, and I've really loved listening to the whole story and how you started. And so, yeah, well done for everything that you've achieved. You've really done an amazing job.
Thank you so much. And like I said, I am so thankful for all of the colleagues who have supported us along the way. We could never have been here without them. So thank you, Rehab World. You guys were the first, you were the early adopters, and I'm so grateful.
So for those listening, like I said, we will post all the links in the notes. But if you want to go, you can go to drbuzbyswholesale.com. You can have a look there, and then lots of other links. If you want to be an affiliate, if you want to interested in distributing, you can reach out to jamie@ToeGrips.com. But I'll put all those links in the description. Julie, thank you so much. It's been awesome chatting to you.
Thanks, Meg. My pleasure.
Have an awesome day.
You too.
Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. And please, if you get a moment, head over to Stitcher or iTunes and leave me a review. It's a really lonely job being a podcaster, and so the only time I get to hear from you or know that you're out there is when I get a review. And know that I read every single one of your reviews. So to those of you that have left reviews, I want to say a very, very big thank you. Every time we get a review, it really helps to get the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast out there to all the vet rehabbers all over the world. All right, vet rehabbers, so if you are looking for more continuing education in the field of veterinary rehabilitation, head over to Onlinepethealth.com. Go be awesome, guys.